Parents and teachers have long worried that devices are turning our kids into Google-dependent goldfish. So one South Australian school has decided to act. St Ignace College in Adelaide... Ignatius College in Adelaide, thank you, Caleb, has banned devices for grades 1 to 3 and imposed strict limits up to year 9. The school told parents that apps like Google and ChatGPT are choking creativity, crippling critical thinking, sabotaging concentration and erasing patience. In other words, great for TikTok, terrible for life. Critics scoff that the policy is prehistoric and will leave kids unprepared for the real world. Parents, however, largely approve. After all, if the real world is full of people who can't focus, can't think and can't wait for their turn, well, maybe preparing children for the real world isn't the noble goal we thought it was. So, would you, Freya, be more inclined or less inclined to send your child to a school that had banned devices for learning?
I would totally back a school that banned devices. I remember when I was going through school, I graduated in 2020. So for our whole high school, we all had laptops and iPads and BYO devices. And for the most part, most students just used them to get distracted. There were very limited ways they could be helpful. Like if you're learning a language, they can do flashcards and language programs better than a textbook. But that was really it. So they come with a whole lot of trade-offs, and really on the balance, they're not worth much at all. But this whole idea that somehow digital devices would revolutionize education was just another fantasy of the left. You guys might remember back in 2007, Kevin Rudd promised to give every student in Australia a laptop. And when governments pick winners, they often get it wrong. It was a disastrous program, really didn't help anyone do very much at all. And the long-term impacts of having devices in schools are on the whole very negative. So good on St Ignatius. Hopefully more schools follow.
Well, I remember when I was in primary school, they came up with these things called smart boards, which were, you know, because of course the blackboard was superseded by the whiteboard, and then they came up with these smart boards that was going to do all the same stuff, but it was all on a screen. And then you could also, you know, show videos and whatever all in one package. And everyone said, oh, touch screens, isn't this amazing? And little did we know, a few years later, everyone would be walking around with touch screens on basically everything they now use. And of course, I was the same. I had a laptop in high school. And, you know, I know it's a strange sort of rebellion, but I hate to tell many of my teachers that I spent most of my time in class reading the newspaper on that laptop because that's what I was interested in doing instead of whatever they were talking about. But, you know, I did all right and I'm here, so I think I've done all right for myself. But this will be thoroughly popular with parents because parents can see better than anyone else the effects that this is having on their children. And I think particularly like a parent or parents who've been through the experience with one kid and they've seen what having the device has done to them will, with the second child, go, actually, I'm going to do things a little differently this time. And they in particular will go, this is great. Or a parent that's, you know, had the younger kids using the device, you know, actually, I think I need to arrest this a little bit, is going, well, I can send them off to school and school can say to them, well, you can't use the device. And then when they come home, it'll be much easier to continue that on. You say, well, if the school says that's the best thing to do, then I guess it's the best thing to do at home as well. And we should note that from year 7 to year 9, they'll be able to use devices, laptops, computers, etc. 50% of the time. So it's not like the kids are being deprived of the opportunity to learn how to use computers, because of course they are important in the modern world. But it's acknowledging that you actually go to school to learn. And the problem now, particularly when you talk about AI and these sorts of things, is that it's almost removing the imperative to actually learn any knowledge, because at the push of a button, you can have something just regurgitate any piece of knowledge you could ever possibly want. So there's no need to commit anything to memory. There is potentially in the future no need to actually understand anything with any depth. Because if you need something to be understood, you'll just get a robot to do it for you. So the school is simply acknowledging that actually we're here to expand the minds of children, not just teach them how to use a thing that does all the thinking for them.
Well, you mentioned there's no need to commit anything to memory. Just the other day I was filling out a form and it required my son's phone number, and I had to say to him, what's your phone number? I've got no idea what their phone numbers are. I don't need to know because it's stored on your device.
Do you remember your first landline number? When you were a kid, your parents' landline number, do you still remember it?
000.
That's the one your parents were calling when you
dialed that number quite a lot.
I bet they did.
I don't. Do you?
I do, yep. In fact, I never call it anymore. My parents still live in the same house, so it's still actually the same landline number. I never call it because they've got mobiles, so if I want to talk to one of them, I just call them on their mobile. But yes, I can remember the number even though I wouldn't have dialed it for 15 odd years, because as a kid, you just sort of commit that stuff to memory. There you go. And that's the thing. You teach something to someone as a kid and it might actually stick in their brain. That's why it's important.
You can learn to use devices later in life.
Exactly.
But cognitive development,
100%.
as a child, you get one opportunity at that, and you're robbed of that if it's all devices and you're not challenged or required to exercise, stretch and use your brain.
Yeah, well, I mean, your brain's already being turned to mush using TikTok at home, so they may as well make some effort at school to get you to use your brain.